This week on All About Android, we talk about how coronavirus is affecting the world of Android, and we've got so much hardware from Nokia to OnePlus to Google to Pixel to LG. Stay tuned and get it all. All About Android is brought to you from LastPass Studios. You're focused on security, but are your employees? LastPass can ensure that they are by making access and authentication seamless. Visit lastpass.com/twit to learn more.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
This episode of All About Android is brought to you by LegalZoom. Make sure your important legal documents are complete with LegalZoom. Visit LegalZoom.com and enter AAA at checkout for special savings and see how they can help you. And by Mint Mobile. They provide the same premium network coverage you're used to, but at a fraction of the cost because everything is online. Mint Mobile makes it easy to cut your wireless bill down to just $15 a month with their 3-month introductory plan and get the plan shipped to your door for free at mintmobile.com/Android. And by LastPass. From access to authentication to passwords, LastPass manages every entry point to your business so you can mitigate risk while improving employee productivity. Visit lastpass.com/twit to find out how they can help you. Welcome to All About Android, episode 464, recorded on Tuesday, March 17th, 2020. We're your weekly source for the latest news, hardware, and apps for the Android faithful. I'm Ron Richards.
I'm Aunt Pruitt.
And we are remote, thanks to the state of the world. We're all safely at home, and we're joined this week by Ben Schoon from 9 to 5 Google. How you doing, Ben?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on.
Everybody is socially distancing themselves and using teleconferencing as needed and all the wonderful technology we have to protect yourselves.
Isn't that just every day in geek culture?
It really is. It's like all of a sudden, hundreds of thousands of nerds are like, finally, yes, what I've been doing for years.
Amateurs.
Well, exactly. Well, Jason took the social distancing a little too far, and he left town. He's on vacation for a little bit, so we do miss Jason, but we're excited to have Ben on board here, and we've got a hardware pack show this week. So we're really going to get into it, Ben. But first, of course, as always, there's news to discuss. So Victor, by the way, Victor, thanks for coming into the studio in these turbulent times. We appreciate you hitting the ones and twos during this.
Oh, no problem, man. Yeah, it's kind of lonely over here. So,
yeah, look at the empty studio. All right, well, why don't we brighten it up with a little bit of news?
There's still nothing going to stop us from bringing Android news to you, even though our hosts look like they've been in the Phantom Zone.
We're trapped. All right. So first up, of course, the mobile phone and Android world has been affected by COVID-19 or coronavirus, as it's affectionately known, as the entire world is kind of going under lockdown for that. And it's been really interesting to see the ramifications and the things that have impacted the mobile tech world. First up, Samsung actually is offering through their Samsung service centers and Galaxy Experience stores in 19 countries a service to disinfect your smartphone. You've probably read online already, in addition to washing your hands for 20 seconds and all the other things you can do to protect yourself. Cleaning and disinfecting your phone is important because phones can grab little things and you carry them with you. You stick them to your face. That's pretty bad. So if you are a Samsung owner of a phone, you can bring them into one of their service centers, and they will clean your smartphone using UVC light, which will kill all bacteria and viruses on the surface of the phone. And it's basically a free service that's going to be available to all customers in 19 countries: United States, Argentina, Chile, Croatia, Denmark, Finland, Japan, Korea, Malaysia, New Zealand, Norway, Pakistan, Peru, Poland, Russia, Spain, Sweden, Ukraine, and Vietnam. I think this is great, and it's a wonderful service to offer to people, except that it requires you to go to the store, which now is kind of against the thing. I'm wiping my phone down at every chance I get. Are you guys taking any precautions to keep your phones clean?
I'll let you go ahead, Mr. Schoon.
Yeah, give us the Schoon.
I mean, yeah, I've been trying to keep mine clean, but I work from home, so it's not as much of a concern. But Yeah, whenever I get a chance, I try to wipe it down at least, and I'll swap out cases because I have the ability to do that because I'm overloaded with cases over here. But yeah, it's important, and I think what Samsung's doing is great, especially because it's not just Samsung phones, at least according to one of the support pages. I just hope it will keep going, even though stores are being shut down if they're not essential, like the grocery stores and stuff. But yeah, I hope that it'll keep going because it's something that people are definitely going to need to keep in mind.
Yeah, it's the kind of service that you can't turn people away for. So I'm glad that if not just Samsung owners are limited to it. Ant, what precautions are you taking?
Well, for me here in the Pruitt household, we have, similar to what Samsung is using, we have phone soap. It's just a box that has a UV light in it, and you stick your phone in it, close the lid, walk away, in about 60 seconds or 2 minutes later, it's sanitized. And had that device for a couple years now, and we tried to use it, just here and there kind of thing. But now we're really trying to push the habit of using something like this phone soap device because it doesn't take a lot of effort other than, just being mindful to sanitize your devices because these things can get pretty filthy, especially if you have, teenage boys like I do. We all know how disgusting teenage boys can be.
Yep, for sure. I just last night cleaned my phone. Long time All About Android listeners or viewers will remember the foam, that spray that we used to clean our devices back when we started the show. I still have a can of that, and I was using that on all my devices last night. Yeah. So it's pretty intense, pretty good stuff. So be clean, be safe, keep your devices clean. But some of the other effects of coronavirus, some interesting things, I'm sure this is happening and cascading throughout and affecting companies all around the world as a lot of companies are moving to remote working or working from home, shutting down operations. It's going to delay a lot of things. One example is that Nokia was planning on rolling out Android 10 around this time and have announced that they have pushed those updates to later this year. So it's a big device. It's going to affect a device like Nokia 5.1 Plus, and it's going to push back that rollout at least 2 months, if not maybe more. So, just another example of how this is, going to have a long-term effect on the industry. And I expect to see a lot of other services get delayed and things that we were expecting for. But one other byproduct, which I thought was fascinating, as everyone moves to to working from home or working remotely, you're seeing a huge surge in things like Skype and Slack, as well as Zoom, which is a popular application for teleconferencing. And so Zoom's Android app actually has gotten destroyed by the coronavirus, not in the way you would think. The app previously had a 4.5 rating in the Play Store. It's now down to a 2, which, when you consider the millions of people who put in ratings and things like that, that's an enormous, kind of pendulum swing. Yeah. And it's mainly because a lot of people are moving to Zoom. People have never used it before. The service, all these services are getting hammered in terms of how they can, keep up with the load. And because of it, Zoom is suffering and getting bad reviews because of it. So
I think Zoom is going to be okay, though. They have a track record of being a solid communications utility for the enterprise, if you will. And I got a hunch that it's a combination of the load being too big at this time, as well as a lot of people have no idea how to use the app, and they just want to trash the app because of their ignorance on the app.
Exactly. It comes down to user stuff. Ben, what is your preferred teleconferencing or video chat app? Are you using Zoom or using something else at these times? Or
no, I actually use Zoom almost every week for video calls with certain people, but I love it because it's super fully featured. But I understand why people who are using it for the first time might be a little put off the first time because it can be a little different than Skype. It doesn't feel as modern. But I really like it, and it's a shame that they're getting hammered like that.
I think I've only used it maybe sparingly on mobile. I've used it most of the time on within the browser page or whatever it is, the app on the desktop.
Yeah, I try to use all that stuff on desktop, but a lot of people are moving to mobile phones and looking for solutions, whether it's Duo or Skype or whatever. And so I guess, it just takes one person to say, hey, I use Zoom, check it out. And other people use it. And then you've got to deal with user expectations and to your point, scaling up for the demand. Having worked in, internet technologies before, when you go from being stable and then super popular, managing that spike is really hard. And it's easier than ever now to spin up new servers and spin up new instances, but you need to have that network ops team standing by ready to do that. And if you don't see it coming, then it takes a little bit to kind of right the ship.
I haven't paid much attention, but I've been curious about the likes of Netflix and Hulu and stuff, people like that have these streaming movies and television services, because right now spring break has started for a lot of people. So that was a bunch of people that were going to be out, but yet they can't travel for obvious reasons. And then there's other areas that are just out of work for their own protection and out of school for their own protection. So it seems like this would be a prime time for everybody to sit around the couch to fire up one of their favorite streaming services, unlike a weekend where, there's going to be a large percentage of people doing that on the weekends, but it's not, I doubt it's as big as it is right now because people are somewhat stuck, Tuesday morning in March with nothing to do because they're not supposed to go out hanging out with their friends and things like that. So what are they going to do? And probably going to fire up, Netflix or something. And I just wonder how is the load on those services?
I feel like CDNs and media services have really kind of figured out that balancing that load and geo targeting traffic and stuff. So you're right. I mean, curious how they're going to handle it. I suppose they're handling it well because we're not hearing any stories of any of those services going down. Yeah. So interesting. Just amazing how this whole thing is affecting our world in ways we never thought about it at all. And we'll continue to monitor it and see how what else gets delayed.
It's only a matter of time.
Yep.
All right. So we'll move on to our next story here. Android 10 report card keeps the Pixel OnePlus pretty much at the top of the rankings. Unfortunately, there's another big giant, Samsung, that's not doing so well. Over on Android, 9to5 Google, I'm sorry, not Android Authority. Was this another one of your stories, Mr. Sean? Where we're looking at the report card far as Android getting official updates pushed out to all of the different devices. And of course, one would assume that, leading the top of the grading list would be Google because Pixel phones, Android, Google, no brainer. But what about the rest of the folks out there, the Samsungs and OnePlus and so forth? And according to Computer World, OnePlus is right there behind Google with an 85% rating as far as getting the updates rolled out to their devices. And then lagging way behind is the likes of Samsung with a 68% or a D+ score, as mentioned on this article here. Now, that one baffled me a little bit considering how many resources the likes of Samsung has, knowing it has all of this popularity and the majority of the Android phones on this planet. You would think it would, they would have been in second place versus third place. But it's pretty neat seeing how poorly some of these other phones are, too, as far as LG, HTC, and Motorola. HTC with a 0%, I still didn't think they were making phones, but that's neither here nor there. And Motorola is the same way. Pretty nuts.
Yeah, no, I mean, these report cards are always great. I mean, we love comparing phones to one another. That's for sure, right? We love comparing all the different manufacturers and all that sort of stuff. I don't know. I mean, I'm a OnePlus user, so like I'm happy with these results. But Ben, do you think that do you subscribe to these results, or would you rate things differently?
No, I think these are dead on. JR, I think it's JR Raphael. He posts this every year with Android updates over on Computer World, and they're just kind of depressing every time. Samsung's getting a lot better, but they should be doing way, way better than this.
What's crazy is you said they're doing better, but dang, 68% is better. What?
Yeah, that's always better than 37%.
It's true. It's true.
And I think the year before that they were 0. So they are getting better. It's just really slowly, and they should be doing better. They're a huge company, and they have the resources to do this.
What do you think is the crutch on them being so slow with pushing these critical updates out to their devices?
Probably part of it's just it's difficult to just get things out right away. Like I don't think Samsung, just because they put such a heavy skin over the top and because they have to deal with more carriers than everybody, it's probably not feasible for us to expect them to be, at like OnePlus's level. But they should be closer because they have the resources and they have the time to get these updates out. And Google's been doing so much to make it easier for manufacturers to do this, and they just continue to do that with every update.
It just makes no sense. Like you said, all the money, all the resources, it just makes no sense. I don't get it.
Well, it just shows that all the money, all the resources doesn't buy results, Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see what the folks that are doing better than them are doing differently on this, than Samsung in terms of that comparison, and where they're edging them out, and exactly, kind of what is deficient on that side. And it, and money can't buy success. That's my takeaway on it.
Yeah,
and granted, I understand that you can have issues with the carriers like Verizon or what have you. I believe at one point in time, Verizon was like the worst to work with as far as getting the updates out there. But I think Verizon has grown up a little bit and realized that, hey, we are selling a lot of these Samsung phones. So let's make it even easier to sell these Samsung phones and, continue to work on that relationship between Verizon and Samsung and just let it keep flourishing. But I guess that's not happening.
Yeah, Ben. I was going to say part of the reason that the score is low is just because it also accounts for how they're pushing updates to their previous devices, like the previous years. And Samsung only ever supports their devices for 2 major updates. They're really good about security patches. They do actually better than Pixel in that regard a lot of the time. But they don't support their devices long enough. Part of that is on Qualcomm. It's not 100% their fault, just because Qualcomm only supports their chipsets for so long. But the fact that OnePlus can do it, the fact that Google can do it at an extra year or more, shows that Samsung, they can do it if they want to. It's just a matter of when do they want to do it.
Right. And what I find fascinating is yes, the Samsung story is really interesting, but and I expect, if you go below the passing grades, LG with an F with 43%, HTC with an F with 0%, which is understandable because HTC is dying on the vine, but Motorola with a 0% and just not doing any rollout of Android 10 on any of their devices with, like that. That's just, given the push Motorola has been doing around their phones, I just find I find that really, really shocking.
Yeah, I think in the computer world, I think they haven't pushed any Android 10 updates yet. Yeah. Or at least not to the flagships, or I can't remember off the top of my head, but they haven't done much at all.
Yeah, at the very least, get your flagships rolling with the best and latest version of the software. Come on, man, especially when people are spending $1,000 on them too. Yeah. That's the least you should be able to do.
The least, indeed. Well, the least you should be able to do in Europe is get your phone repaired, and that might be changing. So we all know the EU is a little hardcore when it comes to regulations and things like that, and they've recently been taking a real kind of hardline stance around climate change, and that's actually extending all the way out to mobile tech and smartphones. The EU adopted a new quote unquote circular economy action plan. And one of the goals on that action plan in this list is that introducing a right to repair for EU citizens in regards to technology. Now, important to note that this isn't a law. This isn't being put into action. This is just a plan. How they implement it will be open. We'll see what happens. But in this document, they define right to repair as the availability of parts for professional replacement. So it's not necessarily, getting a replacement by a regular consumer. It's not necessarily like you going in and having the right to have your phone repaired, but giving the OEMs basically, and this is a kind of a byproduct of law that was related to appliances like refrigerators and freezers and things like that. And it's basically saying the manufacturers are going to need to be able to supply spare parts for devices for up to 10 years. And when you think about the context of a refrigerator versus a smartphone and still providing parts for a smartphone within 10 years, all of us in the know that is ridiculous. But that's not happening. But we often get complaints from people who are like, oh, man, I can't believe I've had this phone for 2 years and it's obsolete already. So is there – I guess the question is – and Ben, I'd love to hear what your take on, this proposed legislation, but also – is there somewhere in the middle, where having the government force manufacturers to be able to support devices for longer than the speed that we've been seeing in recent years? Or Ant, I'd love to hear what you think as well.
Okay. I look at this and I love the analogy of looking at the refrigerator side of things, like home appliances and whatnot, compared to our consumer tech. And I just wonder, I do wonder if there's a middle ground out there, but who can set that precedence? Who's going to step in and say, you know what, 2 years isn't enough? We have our vehicles that we go and buy each, couple of years or whatever. They come with warranties that are up to so many thousands of miles, as well as several years beyond the day of you purchasing that vehicle. So I know there's got to be some type of science and statistics in there that, where we can figure out a middle ground. But it's going to take more than just the leadership at the federal government here in the U.S. It's going to take some people actually in the industry, too, to sort of understand this. It would be nice if we could get more support because, again, I hate harping every week on the price of these little mobile devices, but they should last longer for than 2 years or 3 years, and they should allow you to continue to repair them or whatever. If you crack a screen, you should be able to get that screen repaired because other than that, there was nothing else wrong with that phone. But again, that's just me sounding all old and crotchety. Sorry.
Yeah, and I think the car example is a real interesting example because there is a history of at least on our side, of government involvement in terms of regulating the car industry and lemon laws and like doing all this sort of stuff to make sure that that's
what I was thinking of.
Yeah, and making sure that you're protecting your purchase, but. You got to imagine they need to talk to some sort of expert because even, I agree that the velocity that phones are moving in terms of rolling out new flagships and new versions and stuff like that is too fast. And, I think that, 4 or 5 years feels right, but 10 years feels like an eternity. Like we've been doing the show for 10, we haven't barely been doing the show for 10 years, and so many phones have come out in that time period. I can't imagine still using the phone I was using back in 2010. Now it'd be insane. So I don't know. Ben,
and there's another aspect of this, and that's the operating systems. The hardware may be totally fine, but the operating systems of iOS or Android would be updated and render your hardware obsolete, whether you ask for it or not, just because they're trying to put extra bells and whistles in. So I mean, that's another thing that you should be able to look at and say, you know what, this. Don't just kick me out of the ecosystem because I didn't want to buy a new phone and run your latest version of Android. Give me just a little bit more support for a couple years, maybe 4 years max or something like that. Because I get that the developers are wanting to put most of their energy and resources into the next big thing for their company and not keep sitting around fussing at Billy Joe or Mary Sue on their old phone and the old tech and the old software that it's running.
Yeah. Ben, if you're with us, what do you think of this? What do you think of this proposed legislation in Europe?
Yeah, I'm back. I think it's. I mean, I think the immediate thought is, oh, this is great. I keep using my phone longer. It'd be nice to be able to update my software and just keep using my same phone. But yeah, the 10 years is not realistic for a smartphone at all. I mean, a few weeks ago, I was just going through some old phones in my drawer, and I pulled out like a Nexus S, which is
oh wow.
I don't think that's not 10 years old yet.
No, it's not. It's getting there.
And I mean, it's usable, but it's usable on ancient versions of Android. It would not be usable on Android 10.
The Nexus S turns 10 years old this December.
Okay.
It came out December 2010. Yep.
Yeah, wow. But I mean, like, I can't imagine using one of those now, especially just even thinking of just the camera. You can't get away with a phone like that now. Even the cheapest phone is going to be better than that. So I think realistically, if the purpose that they want is, if we're using up our resources so quickly, it just really needs to push into, we need better ways to recycle our phones when we're done with them.
Yep.
Instead of just throwing them away or leaving them in a drawer. Like,
now,
give us incentives to trade them in. Go ahead.
Let me play devil's advocate. So let's look at this from, again, the vehicle standpoint, cars or whatever. You buy a car from 2015 and you expect it to run. You expect it to just be a car. But far as the bells and whistles in there, you know it's not going to have all of the same bells and whistles of a car that's a 2020 model or 2019 model.
But you can take that car and trade it in at the lot and get the value of it and apply that to a new car.
What I'm saying, if someone purposely goes out to buy an older car because it's just the utility of it, I'm wondering if it's just cultural that we can think about buying a car that way versus buying an older phone. If you go out and buy an older car, you have certain expectations. You expect it to get you to from point A to point B and back to point A safely. You expect it to be comfortable when you buy it, but you may not expect Bluetooth connectivity. You may not expect the sunroof and things like that. I wonder if it's just cultural that we can't necessarily say that about our mobile phones. If we go out and look on eBay or whatever these other reseller sites are that have older models of phones, people will gripe about getting that older phone and saying, dang, it's not letting me run Duo on it because the phone is too old. Well, maybe you should have bought a newer phone. I don't know. Just spitball.
Yeah. I think on thinking about it that way, we can think about it, make that comparison. The schedule's just vastly accelerated. Yeah. Car we can keep using for, realistically, you could use a car for 20 years if you take care of it. But it's going to be very difficult, or longer actually. But a phone is just, that schedule is so accelerated that we can't think of it exactly the same way. And realistically, it's also going to be a thought of how the app developers and Google, Apple, whoever wants to support such a limited number of people. So I think that's part of it too.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is also, to go on the far side of it, the EU always goes to extremes, as we've learned with their judgments against Microsoft and Google and things like that. So EU is going to put a plan out there that's going to be way more extreme than needs to be, and then hopefully whatever they end up actually using as legislation, they reel back in, and it gets and it finds that balance. So interesting. So we'll keep track of it for our European friends. Always curious what the EU gets up to. We're going to take a break first, and we're going to thank our sponsor of this episode. We want to thank LegalZoom for sponsoring this episode of All About Android. And listen, taxes, right? That's the dreaded word. That's one thing we all have to deal with this time of year on top of everything else. And as a business owner, it's critical to know all your options. That's why you should lean on LegalZoom. LegalZoom is great because they help you with all your legal issues. I've got a small business, and whenever I've got to deal with a contract or a legal issue or anything like that, I can't afford a lawyer. We don't have a ton of money to spend on those hourly rates. That's why LegalZoom steps in and helps our business directly with the things that we need. So, whether you got an LLC or a DB or your DBA or you got an S Corp, they all mean different things when it comes to paying taxes and limiting your personal liability. There's a lot to think about, but with LegalZoom, you don't have to worry about doing the legwork yourself. You have to find the right answers. LegalZoom has a ton of resources to help, including their network of independent attorneys and tax professionals. They'll provide the advice you need to ensure you're operating the business the way you want to and avoiding problems, which is the key thing. And the best part of that is that since LegalZoom isn't a law firm, you save time and money while avoiding those hourly fees. Whether you need to incorporate, form an LLC, or set up your business another way, use LegalZoom to maximize your business's potential and make your accountant happy. And trust me, the best thing you can ever do is keep your accountant happy. That's the key to business happiness right there. So get your business on the right track for 2020. Go to LegalZoom.com today and enter promo code AAA in the box at checkout for special savings. That's LegalZoom.com, promo code AAA. LegalZoom, where life meets legal. Thanks, LegalZoom. We appreciate your support. And that's going to take us into hardware.
All right, so LG apparently heard all of my ranting about these expensive phones and has decided to put out a phone. It's a flagship phone at that. That's under $1,000, and that is the LG V60 ThinQ. I never know if I'm saying it right because it almost looks like think instead of ThinQ. But this is a Snapdragon 865 processor, 8 gigs of RAM, 128 gigs of storage, and a whopping 5,000 milliamp hour battery, as well as all of the bells and whistles with their camera, having additional lenses, and the bloody headphone jack. But there's another little twist there. You can get the LG dual screen accessory, which is basically a copy of the other side of the other screen on this phone, which is at, I believe it's 6.8 inches. And if you wanted to get this phone, you can get it from Verizon for $949. So that is just under $1,000, and that does make me smile. It's still a little bit too expensive, but it does make me smile to see that someone is making an effort to put a flagship phone under $1,000.
So Ben, you wrote about this on 9to5 Google. What's your take on this phone?
For me, this is the first time I've been remotely excited about anything LG's done in probably 2 years at least. No, I'm legitimately excited to try this out. I have one coming on the way in the next few days, I think. But it's, it is like he said, was said, it's a flagship phone. Maybe a little less so on the display since it's only 1080p. But yeah, it's got everything. It's got the 865. It's got plenty of storage. It's got a huge battery. It's got 5G. It's got in-screen fingerprint sensor. It's everything. I do agree. I think it's still a little much. But I think T-Mobile's pricing is better because they're offering it without the dual screen for $800. And I think that's perfect for what this phone is.
$800 is better, but it's still not quite what I want to spend.
Yeah, that's true. But there's a real loyal following for the LG V series, like the V60. There are people who I've talked to some folks who just love the previous versions of the phone, and the ThinQ. Yeah, I don't know what it is.
I can never tell when you look at it.
Because I want to say it reminds me of like an old IBM product. They would do that all the time with like ThinQ or Think. But yeah, there's some people who swear by those LG phones, and I've got my hands on them from here, from time to time, and they're pretty nice. And I feel like every time a new one comes out, it's like it's worth stopping and taking a look at it. And definitely the at least less than $1,000 is attractive to me at least. So.
I had given up on LG back when it had that curved display phone. You remember that one? It was sort of curved like that.
The Flex.
I thought that was the Flex. That's what it was called. Yeah, I remember getting my hands on that and just being so underwhelmed and just pretty much wrote LG off. But then they came out with the Stylo a couple years later.
Yes, I remember the Stylo. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it seemed like, okay, they're trying now, but I still wasn't a big LG fan or anything, but it was nice to see that they were trying to sort of keep up with the Joneses, if you will.
Yeah, well, they always did. They had the modular, the Snap-on stuff. Remember that? They will get innovative and try crazy stuff, but also put out a really good solid phone that works. So yeah, well, so a phone that caught my eye was the Red Magic 5G from Nubia, and Ben, you also wrote about this on 95 Google. So this is it's a gaming smartphone. That just I mean, if you're thinking of a phone called the Red Magic, this is the phone I would imagine. So like they're delivering on the name. So it's got a Snapdragon 865, and you've got either 8 gig, 12 gig, or 16 gig of RAM, or along with either 128 gig or 256 gig of storage. And it's got a big old battery, 4,500 milliamps. And it's going to sell. It's going to start sales in China next week at prices ranging from $540 to $712. That's straight from Ben's article right there. But the big thing about this is that it boasts a 6.65 inch AMOLED display that supports 144 hertz refresh rate. So this is kind of insane, Ben. Tell us why 144 refresh rate is kind of insane for a phone.
Oh yeah, no, it's ridiculous for a phone because a year ago 90 hertz was crazy, and now we've got the Galaxy S20, it's 120. 144 hertz is insane. I mean, I hope I can tell the difference. I have trouble telling the difference between 90 and 120, but 144 is kind of like that golden number for gamers, which obviously is what this phone is targeting. It's if you want a gaming monitor, you get a 144 hertz gaming monitor. And this is a phone that has that, and I'm having trouble thinking of games that support it outside of like PUBG. But it's going to be really interesting to see it. I hope I can get my hands on this one. Yeah, and the colors are awesome.
Well, the colors are real. I was going to get on the colors on it. So it's got the red one that we've seen there, and it's got a cyber blue one. Isn't that the name of it, or where is it?
Cyber Neon.
Cyber Neon, that's what it is, a variant there. Of course, it's got a boring black model, but what's even crazier is that there's a transparent model that of course is more expensive. But so the red and the Cyber Neon is cool and stuff. But if you want a transparent phone, you can get it. So Victor, I put the link in the doc. You can show up. You can show the transparent model. And when we got to wonder what does transparent mean, you can see the insides of the phone because the case is indeed transparent, which I just find fascinating and surprised that no one else has done it yet. Right.
I remember about 3 iterations ago, there was rumors of Apple doing something like this with its phone, but I think this makes perfect sense for the gamer world. They love that stuff on their desktop computers, being able to look into the case and have all the beautiful RGB setup and whatnot. And this just looks like an extension of their computer, from a gaming standpoint. It'd be really cool if there were little LEDs that just like zoomed, that showed movement in the back of it. And those of you who are watching the show right now, Victor's having fun with transparencies. Right. But no, if they had like little lights running through it to kind of, like straight out of like a movie or something like that, that'd be pretty cool. Ben, do you have any idea how much the transparent model is going to cost, or did they announce that?
I can't remember off the top of my head. It's just a little bit more. I think it's like an extra $70 or something like that. I am going to burst your bubble a little bit though. It is transparent, but it's a lot of stickers. At least I'm pretty sure it is. Xiaomi did a phone like this, I think last year or the year before. They did a transparent version, and most of it was just stickers. Because I don't like the chips. Don't. Yeah, I hate to do that, but yeah, that's what
disappointing. That's no fun. Why do it then?
Because it got you really excited.
It's true. It did. Well, the thing is that
theirs might be
red
different.
Yeah. That
theirs
red
might
and that
be
blue
different.
is
I'm not saying that knowing for sure, but
yeah, there's probably a good chance that it is sticker based. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I love these gaming phones are just ridiculous. I just I'm so far from the mindset of a gamer where I need a gaming phone. So I'm fascinated by the companies like ROG and this and stuff like that who are putting them out and making them look all like you mentioned, like those cases, like those big PC cases that they love with the water with the light in the water cooling devices and all that stuff. Yeah, it's crazy. So the weirder the looking phone, the better. So unfortunately these are China only. But if anybody gets it, hopefully Mateo or somebody, one of our friends get their hands on it and we can see it in person.
Yeah, no, actually these should be launching globally. I don't think the United States, but they will launch globally.
So better chance of getting our hands on one then.
Yep. Yeah. There's a chance I'll have one. I know my colleague Damien out in the UK will have one.
Ooh, okay. Well, if you get one, you let us know because I want to see this.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And is this like those old Hot Wheels cars when you splash them with water, it changes color?
Oh, dude.
That would be awesome. That'd be awesome.
You took me back. Wow.
That'd be very cool.
Goodness. All right. So moving on, there's been a lot of fuss about the Escobar Fold 2 phone. And it's pretty sketchy, to be quite honest. I can remember when this story came out several weeks ago. This company was basically going to rival the model that Samsung put out in its Samsung Fold. They even did a couple little teaser videos showing off a message of RIP Samsung and just really pushing the envelope as far as marketing their phone to come in at a much lower price for consumers and just eating the lunch of Samsung, if you will. Well, if you try to order that phone, it's probably not going to work out so well for you. According to Android Authority, MKBHD, Marques Brownlee, he went through the process of ordering that phone because, that's just what he does. He doesn't always get these phones and devices gifted to him just because of how large his account is. He actually spends the money to try out these different devices. So after a little bit of PR runaround between this Escobar company and Mr. Brownlee, he finally got his phone several weeks later and decided to, just check it out a little closer. And he was thinking, man, this phone really looks like the Samsung Galaxy Fold. And after he started pulling some stickers off of the phone, what did it reveal? Samsung branding. First off, why in the heck are there stickers all over this phone? Secondly, wow, that's pretty, that's a lot of cojones, I should say. To be clean. That's a lot of cojones. But the story goes on to say that they did have some extra endorsements from air quotes celebrities to try to boost the sales of the phone, and it's really just a flat out scam. Period. That's all it is.
That's crazy.
That was a lot of effort.
It's a lot of effort. That's fascinating. I mean, good. I mean, I guess good on them for the taking a chance, right?
Yeah, is that like doing is that about like doing a swap meet or a flea market where you just buy a whole bunch of goods and then go out on the weekend to sell them at a slight markup for your own profit? They just bought up boxes and boxes of Galaxy Folds. I probably shouldn't say boxes. Maybe let's just say they had 10. They bought 10 Galaxy Folds. That's a pretty steep investment at about $2,000 a pop, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So they bought 10 of those phones, put all of their stickers and other gibberish all over them, and then did their whole marketing plan with all of these fancy videos and teasers, and even had a social media presence on Twitter, just trying to promote this phone and finally getting it out into select YouTubers to where they can just, show off this phone a little bit more. And fortunately, Mr. Brownlee is not as naive as some folks and decided to dig a little bit deeper, literally, on that phone.
Well, if anyone's going to do it, it's going to be him. So that's just a crazy story. All right. And our last hardware story for now, we've got even more hardware coming up after the next break. But first up, last up. Motorola, mentioned it earlier when we were talking about the news. In this past year, we've talked about Motorola, really doing a lot in the mid-range, offering, the Moto G line, which is an affordable, really good, solid phone line, and offering up the Moto E line as well. And for those of the budget, Motorola One. And then recently we saw the Motorola Razr come out, which was a little more premium, but a little more, niche and a little more, eccentric. But now we've got news of the Motorola Edge, Motorola's re-entry point into the premium smartphone, into the flagship category. And I got to admit, I'm kind of disappointed because I like that Motorola was existing in the mid-range, and and I guess they have to compete on the high end. But here we are, the Motorola Edge. It's got a 6.67-inch curved waterfall display with a hole punch camera on the left side, with a 90 hertz refresh rate. By the way, now we're going to talk about refresh rates. It's running Snapdragon 765. It's got 6 gig of RAM. And 128 gig of storage with an expandable micro SD card slot for all you SD card slot fans. It's got a 64 megapixel, 16 megapixel, 8 megapixel rear cameras. And Victor, actually, if you scroll down on the video, you can see some of the renders of you can see some of the photos of the actual phone itself. The front facing hole punch camera is 25 megapixels. It's got a big old battery at 4,500 milliamps with no wireless charging. It's got NFC, it's got a headphone jack, and it's running Android 10, and it's got that under display fingerprint scanner like all the other flagships do. So it's pretty interesting that Motorola Edge is coming out back, putting them back into the premium game. The Motorola Edge Plus is going to be at Verizon because Motorola does have a good relationship with Motorola, but we don't know what the pricing is going to be because this is a bit of a leak. The device, there was speculated this device was going to launch at Mobile World Congress, but since because of coronavirus that got canceled. So at some point Motorola will roll this out. Ben, what do you think of this and Motorola's re-entry into the premium flagship phone space?
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see them give it another shot. I used Moto X days. I absolutely loved everything they were putting out. Obviously, they are in a very different space now, and they kind of got crowded out of the flagship space. But I'm excited to see what they do. This looks interesting. And what I think is most interesting is that they have two tiers. They have their flagship and they have their kind of half step down. It's not quite a flagship, but it's not a mid-range phone either. So I'm excited to see, more options like that because, this is going to be like the LG V60 territory where it's, it's not that $1,000 price point, but it's still a really good phone that is going to be fine for even power users.
It makes me wonder what happened with Motorola and its marketing prowess. You remember the whole Droid moniker that they were so popular for?
Well, yeah, but that was a lifetime ago. That was that was several corporate takeovers and buyouts and sales happened in between, right? At one point, Google owned them and then sold them off and all that stuff. So yeah, I mean. The funny thing is that I think more so the marketing prowess of the Droid brand was important 10 years ago, but that relationship with Verizon has been more important because I think that they've been able to not really invest in crazy huge marketing and still get crazy market share because the phones are affordable and in Verizon stores, which is a huge chunk of the buying audience.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. I can remember hearing more and more about the Motorola brand. Way back when. I don't hear about it as much now, but yet they're still in the pockets of Verizon and getting those phones off of the shelves. That it says a lot about their marketing prowess and having the ability to say, we can just sit back and just watch all of this perpetual money come in without putting much effort into it, because now Verizon is just
They did leverage that Droid moniker to release a phone that looked like R2D2, which you really got to wonder why that marketing, why they haven't linked back up with the Star Wars brand and done more Droid-like phones because those would sell like crazy, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. I had totally forgotten about that phone. Wow.
a friend of mine had that phone and was still using it like talking about using phones for a long time or outdated phones, was like, because that phone must have came out like, I want to say like 2009 or so. Like that was more than 10 years ago. And I had a friend who was still using it like as of 2015. And I was like, how are you still using that phone? So not one of us.
Did you ask him whose toy phone that he borrowed?
No. So yeah. Anyway, all right. So that's our first batch of hardware, and we're going to take a quick breather, and we are going to thank our next sponsor, Mint Mobile, for sponsoring this episode of All About Android. And listen, we're talking a lot about mobile phones. We're talking about your mobile phones. Have you looked at your wireless bill lately? Because if you have or you haven't, you're probably paying too much. It's 2020 and network coverage is better than ever. We're seriously living in the future now. No matter who your wireless provider is, that coverage is so great. So why should you pay more for the same service? And that's where Mint Mobile comes in. They can cut your bill down to $15 a month for the same premium coverage. And now listen, I know what you're thinking. This has got to be too good to be true, but these guys know what they're doing. Mint Mobile is definitely delivering on the goods here. Your old wireless bill pays for expensive retail stores and overhead, and that's why Mint Mobile reimagined how you buy wireless and made it all online, passing the savings directly to you. Every plan comes with unlimited nationwide talk and text plus crazy fast 4G LTE. You can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and keep your same phone number along with all your existing contacts. So don't worry about that. Nothing's going to change with your device and what you do, just what network you're going to connect to. If you're not 100% satisfied, Mint Mobile has you covered with their 7-day money-back guarantee. Listen, in these days, especially in these days, saving money is key to getting by. You want to make sure that you're not overpaying for any of your services. And with Mint Mobile, you can cut down those costs of your wireless bill. And you can get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month with their 3-month introductory plan, and get the plan shipped to your door for free. Go to mintmobile.com/Android. That's mintmobile.com/Android. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month with their 3-month introductory plan at mintmobile.com/Android. Thanks, Mint Mobile. And we got some more hardware. And normally when we have more hardware, we don't do another bumper. But considering that these are the extreme times, let's see the hardware bumper again. There, Victor. Oh. There it is. Victor,
I can't say you didn't ask for it, Ron.
I did ask for it. So, all right, Ant. What do we got about the next Pixel?
Oh, the next Pixel 5 and Pixel 5 XL. Well, according to again our folks at 9 to 5 Google, they found a little bit of information from TechnoLite Plus, where they broke down the actual code behind the camera that's going to be running in the Pixel 4. And allegedly in the Pixel 5. And when you look at the different code comments, you see that, the 4A has the mid-range camera versus a upper echelon camera, if you will. And they just continue to sort of, follow the breadcrumbs to figure out what's going on with the Pixel 5. And as they dug a little bit deeper into the code based on the camera and based on some of the code names such as Bramble and Redfin, they found that the Pixel 5 is probably going to be running a Snapdragon 765G as this system on chip. Now, what does that mean? That's pretty much the same processor that's been spit out for the 4A. Now, we know that the A models of these Pixel phones are usually a little bit, I should say underpowered, but they're not quite as powerful as the flagship devices are. Such as the Pixel 4 versus the 4A. So why are we taking a step back on the Pixel 5 and not necessarily having a much stronger or more powerful system on chip for the 5 and the 5 XL coming out later on this year? I don't know, but I thought that was a little bit fascinating. It also begs the question of just how good is Android 11? Is the operating system that good where you don't need that much horsepower? Who knows?
That's a good question. Ben, what's your take on the Pixel 5?
So personally, I think this is something Google's at a kind of a crossroads at this with the Pixel 5. They have to do something. They have to do something really good this year, because the 4. I think it was a great phone, but a lot of people did not like it. And they really need to, up their game a little bit for the Pixel 5. And going the opposite direction might be a smart move for them. It might not be, but it might be a smart move for them just because it's going to allow them to keep the price a lot lower. And realistically, most people aren't even going to know the difference. Like, when you think, a lot of us think, when we think Pixel, we're thinking, people like you and I who, we want the best Android has to offer. We buy a Pixel because it's Google's phone. It's, it's the one with the best Android experience. And the software is what matters. The processor underneath isn't really going to make as much of a difference. So going to that point, it's going to make it more confusing between the 4A and the 5. But I think that might be a good thing.
Yeah, it's funny because the noting the gap between the Pixel 3 and the Pixel 4 and how poorly the Pixel 4 was received, and a lot of the issues right out of the gate that really kind of, the phone wasn't DOA, but it definitely wasn't the impact on the world that the Pixel 3 was. You're right. They have a lot to prove on the Pixel 5, and it almost, like I'm with you in that. Does it need the most powerful, most expensive, sexiest new system on a chip to make it run as fast as possible when most people just need the camera to take a really good picture to upload to Instagram, right? Like what are we doing that needs that high level of processing? And especially with Google's recent leaning on the cloud and AI and software side of things. Sure, they need that system on a chip to crunch those numbers and to do the photo processing and stuff like that. But really, are we going to notice the difference? So yeah, Ben, I agree with you right there. Yeah.
I wonder if the shareholders would look at this and say, "Hey, this is just this is not good. Are we giving up on providing adequate hardware in the mobile phone space? Are we just going to just throw something out there and hope it sticks and just go with a lower cost bit of hardware? Or are they looking at it and saying, you know what, let's go a little bit cheaper on the hardware and make those margins even better for us? Because, hey, we are Google and we're going to do a whole lot with AI, and it's going to be so much easier on the phone, and we can just continue to put more resources and energy into that AI, and no one's going to notice how slower that 765 chip is going to be."
Yeah, and I don't want to cut you off, but one of the things I was thinking about with it is, the best selling phone in the world last year was the iPhone XR and the iPhone 11. Those are not the high end phones.
Yeah.
I think it would be smart if Google did actually make their Pixel Ultra this year and, said, here's our high end one. But if you don't want to spend that much, here's one it's even cheaper than the iPhone 11. It's still going to take just as good pictures. It's still going to be super fast. It's still going to have 5G. It's still going to have Face Unlock. It's still going to have a 90 hertz display. It's going to have that telephoto camera. It's going to have everything a flagship should have. It's going to have everything the iPhone 11 has. It's just going to be a slight step backwards in terms of the processor. Which even then, like you said, like we've all said, no normal person's going to notice the difference. The only people that are going to notice the difference are, the power users they want to export their videos on it, or they just want to run benchmarks. And that's just not the majority of people.
Now listen, the number one phone use is running benchmarks. Everyone's running home with their new phones to run benchmarks now, and that's the thing. And unfortunately, there's a population of the pundits like ourselves, like Ben yourself, as a writer, and they hear us doing podcasts and things like that, who lean on those numbers and lean on those specs because it's something to talk about. But this is why I always try to, go to the mindset of the normals, as I call them, like the regular, like my sister's an Android user. What does she need for a phone? She's a teacher. She's got 2 kids. What she needs is a great camera and a battery that lasts all day. Like, as long as the phone does that, it's and then all the other bells and whistles and the cool stuff like portrait mode and all that great stuff is good selling points. But at the end of the day, it comes down to camera and battery. and price. And I really hope the days of the $1,000 phone being the only option or the best option are behind us. And if they can come out with the next Pixel 5 and it's a $599 phone, that's way more attractive than the $1,000 of the previous one. So
this chat makes a good point. He says the Pixel 5 is going to be like the OG Moto X. Remember that phone?
Mm-hmm.
And it had a much slower chip in it, but people loved that phone from what I remember.
That was a great phone. That was a great phone. Yeah.
And plus, having the 765 versus the 865 is probably going to mean better battery life too, which was the 4's biggest stumbling point.
Yep.
So that's a huge plus for them too.
Yeah, for sure. Well, this is a good segue to our next story, which is, you got to imagine that Google is learning from the Pixel 3a adventure, by, putting out the Pixel 3, then putting out the Pixel 4, then putting out the Pixel 3a and at a lower price point, the plastic case, kind of a more, kind of affordable one that got numerous people, Jason included, saying it's the phone of the year for 2019. So we're getting close to a Google Pixel 4a release. We've already heard reports of leaks and things like that. And Ben, actually, you wrote an article about the most recent leak. Somebody got their hands on one of the devices, and XDA, they popped up the bootloader, and we found out some stuff about its memory, right? What did we find out about the Pixel 4 this time around?
Well, we already knew from a previous leak that it was going to have 6 gigs of RAM, which is great because that was a huge improvement on the Pixel 4. But it's also going to have better actual physical storage memory. So the 3A had eMMC storage, which it's cheap and it's okay, but it's kind of slow, which is why if you leave a Pixel 3a sitting on a shelf like I do for a while and then you turn it on, it's a slow lag fest for a little while until it catches up. But the Pixel 4a is going to have UFS 2.0 storage, at least according to the bootloader, which is significantly faster because that's the same kind of storage that's used in the Pixel 4, if I'm not wrong.
All right. So significantly more storage than the Pixel 3a time around. So it's shaping up like the Pixel 4a might be another case of a really good mid-range price phone, right? I mean, it seems like it's going in the right direction, right?
Especially because it's $399 again.
Yeah. Oh man, I hope so, and I hope they have good colors. So.
Good colors, really?
I'm telling you,
Come
man.
on,
I'm so
you're
tired.
Gonna have a case on these things eventually.
No, and you don't know me well enough to know that I am anti-case.
I say eventually. You got kids now too, so yeah.
Well, I did actually put a case on my OnePlus 7 because you can see there it's kind of the cases on there because I was standing in the bodega and you see that crack, and I dropped it on the concrete floor, and right there it hit and shattered all the way up. It's safe and it's fine, but I'm like, I don't want more, so I bought this little clear case and just I've been rocking that, unfortunately. But I rarely drop my phone, I rarely break my phone, and so I'm anti-case, and I want a phone especially with the Pixel 4a with the plastic, kind of case and that sort of thing, like, no glass back, less chance of breaking. But give me a crazy color. Give me that awesome orange button. Like like with the low price, go nuts with the design aspect of it. That's what I like to see from it. So I
admit I do like the little button accents that they've had on the last couple of Pixels with the little orange button on the side for power. I did think that was a nice little touch. And they've been doing it since the original Pixel, I believe, right?
They have, yeah, they have.
Pixel 2. First one was just standard metal, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, I like that touch. Just a little.
It's a little touch of color,
style.
A little splash of color. Yeah, exactly. A little style.
Because that's what Google is known for, style. But anyway.
Speaking of style, looks like OnePlus has got a little style, right?
Yeah, OnePlus and Robert Downey Jr. Wow. Supposedly, there's been a leak of the new OnePlus 8. Has been walking around the streets with Mr. Robert Downey Jr. A photographer noticed him out and about, and he's holding his phone. That really does look like it may be the new one with a release date of about April 15th. And I say about because we don't know nowadays with everything that's going on, as well as with OnePlus's usual mode of operation. They'll have a release date, and sometimes they'll release it before the actual date was mentioned. But now with everything going on with the virus and stuff, we don't know. But it was pretty cool to see this phone out in the wild and it being in the hands of Mr. Iron Man himself, and just trying to show some love and spark up more conversation and interest in this device. I will admit, when I saw these pictures, I started pixel peeping because I was like, this has to be a fake. That phone is not real, or someone just did a really bad job of Photoshop or whatever. But no, I look at it. It looks legit.
Now, do you really think that this is a leaked photo, or someone just caught him holding? Like, you don't think this was placed by them?
And that was my next point. We've talked about leaks with Google last week with the latest Pixel coming out, and I've said from the last couple iterations that Pixel quote unquote leak was not a leak. That was just marketing 102 by Google and its team. And it's quite possible that this is the same approach going on from the folks at OnePlus. Not that they need to do a lot of marketing. They have a pretty strong brand. They're doing just fine. But, you know, if you want to get some buzz out there, you can just sort of encourage a leak, if you will.
Yeah. It's way more manipulative these days.
Yeah.
I mean, so next week we'll see a video of it, and it'll be somebody walking the streets of I don't know, Brooklyn or whatever, and spots I don't know, Robert Downey Jr. just out at a, you know, getting a coffee, talking on the phone. You know, I'm sure something's coming. Something far-fetched.
Ben, you were gonna say?
Yeah, and I mean, like I said in the article, I think almost definitely these were just, you know, the photographer was on set of them trying to make an ad for the device for the launch because he's their brand ambassador. And the photographer posted them to his Instagram, and then they were taken down. So I'm guessing he didn't know it wasn't public yet and posted it, and then they told him to take it down, but it was too late. So that's all I'm betting happened there.
They knew it was too late.
I will say, Ben, and to that point, more often than not, in my experience, is that, you know, we can, cook up these conspiracy theories or these, you know, kind of, they're manipulating us or whatever. But more often than not, it's an obvious thing like that, where it's an honest mistake. It wasn't actually intended.
Yeah, so, I think that's probably what it was. But it's cool. I like that copper color.
Yeah.
That's
a little design, a little bit of flair. Yeah.
I don't know if that's copper, but then again, maybe my monitor is all out of whack too. Who knows?
Victor, can we zoom in on that again? How would we describe that? Yeah. I think that's coppery. That looks like a penny.
It is. Yeah. You're right.
Huh.
Looks
it could be. It could be like a peach, like a light peach, or like a tan. I don't know. It's. We all see colors differently, so who knows?
But I'm telling you, I zoomed in like that, looking at this image and doing my best to see, did someone just use a layer mask and place some sort of phone in this man's hands?
You are really a skeptic, man. You are really like, you're looking. Yeah.
But you see where they got me is if you look at his pinky finger, there's a little bit of a fold right there.
Yeah,
it's pretty hard to fake that. So I said, okay, maybe this is legit. But that's what sold me on it. Say, okay, he's actually holding a phone. Maybe it is that phone.
This shadow over here looks a little like a drop shadow.
See, I'm not the only person pixel peeping. I'm sorry. Google has made me skeptical over the last couple of years with these leaks and stuff. You know, it's just no.
All right. It's fair. It's good to be a skeptic sometimes. I think that's okay. One thing I'm not skeptical about though is wearables. So let's do some hardware. All right, so thanks to Ben, we got a little bit of hardware to talk about this week. You talked about the new Tag. I always get this wrong. Tag Heuer. I can't say it. Tag Heuer. Their latest Wear OS watch. It's got a 1.3-inch OLED display. It's got a 430 milliamp battery. It's got a heart rate monitor, GPS, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, NFC. It's got a 45 millimeter case. It's 13.5 millimeters thick, and it's running on the Snapdragon Wear 3100. Ben, how much does this watch cost?
$1,800 to start.
Dear God, why is it so expensive?
Because it's a tag.
Yeah, because it's a luxury brand. They're gonna charge what they want to charge. Basically, no one should buy it. But if you're gonna spend that much on a watch, this is a really good looking one. Like, at least it's a good looking watch.
But let me ask you
seems like
folks
a lot.
this. let me ask you folks this, because I'm not hip to what's going on with Wear OS. Is it really good? Is it just still choking and puking all over itself? Or is it just something that's serviceable?
If you ask me, if you have a watch that has a 3100 and a gig of RAM, it's totally fine. It's not an Apple Watch. You can argue it's not as good as Samsung's, but I think it is totally fine. Mm-hmm. Especially for what this is, because this is a fashion watch. This is not a utility. They're selling you a really fashionable watch, which is why it costs so much. Mm-hmm. And it just also happens to have smart features, which I think that's where Wear OS shines, and it's got the specs to back it up. So it should be totally fine.
Okay. Yeah, I never really heard a lot of good stuff about Wear OS. I just kept hearing the fussing and grumbling about it crashing all the time, but I didn't hear any complaints about Samsung's offering. But that's running Tizen. Mm-hmm. Is it still running Tizen?
Yes, it is running Tizen.
Okay, so that's why I was like, I don't even know if I'm going to spend $1,800 on this watch, this tag watch or whatever. I know I'm paying for the brand of tag, but at least give me an operating system on it that's not going to just be a mess of itself. And it sounds like it would probably be okay, according to you, right?
Yeah, it'll be fine. I'm a Wear OS user daily. Right now I have a Moto 360 that I use on the daily, and it's great. I think Wear OS is totally fine. You know, it's not, like I said, it's not at the Apple Watch level, which is unfortunate, but I think for, notifications and a few apps, I think it's totally fine.
Do you think Google will continue to try to push the Wear OS and throw more resources at it to make it better, to make it to where Apple Watch isn't the standard when people start thinking about smartwatches? Have you heard anything about them, really, really just sort of upping their game around Wear OS?
Yeah, they're at least hinting at it. I think it was a week or two ago. They put out a survey to some certain users, and it kind of hinted really strongly that they were going to make a push into health features, which is Wear OS's big issue. Like, that's one of the things that's really lacked at. And the Fitbit acquisition could help considerably, which Google teased that themselves too.
That's right. They did buy Fitbit. So, that's right.
Yeah. So it's possible. We'll have to wait and see and hope for the best. It could be that they're working on something else in the background, and then they're going to kill off Wear OS. But I hope not, because I think it's a very good start, and they just need to add on to it.
Yet that wouldn't be a surprise, though, if they killed it off.
Unfortunately not.
Well, and it's getting to be like, given the duration of a Google product and it's getting close to the graveyard in terms of. But the thing is that once they like when they took the position of rolling out Wear OS to OEMs and to letting hardware manufacturers do it, Tag needs a smartwatch product, and so Tag's doing the debate. Okay, do we spend money to develop our own OS? Blah blah blah. That's not an option. Tizen didn't turn out to be what we thought it would be. They can't use iOS, so the Android is a alternative for somebody who wants a smartwatch, who doesn't want an Apple Watch, who wants a Tag, and they don't care what's under the hood. right? So I don't think Google will actually kill it, but I think it does serve a purpose. But it's by no means. I mean, it's not on life support, but it's close to just being like this outlier that does a nice business for them, and they don't need to do more on it.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with that.
Yeah. So, all right, cool. Well, with that little bit of expensive watch news, let's thank our last sponsor for the evening. We want to thank the fine folks at LastPass for sponsoring All About Android. And listen, if you're running a business, securing every access point to your business is critical, but it's challenging for your IT department to improve security without impacting employee productivity. And that's a real fact, man. I've been working in lots of offices for many years, and that balance between IT and security and employee productivity is a tough one to deal with. LastPass provides you with a balance of strong security that's also easy for your employees to use and manage. With LastPass, employees benefit from a solution that's easy to use while IT maintains control over every login. LastPass offers multiple solutions for businesses. LastPass Identity unifies password management, single sign-on, and biometric multi-factor authentication into one single solution, adaptive authentication. You combine biometric and contextual intelligence to prove a user's identity with a variety of flexible MFA options. You can eliminate passwords, leverage biometrics and integrations to streamline access to work applications without ever having to type a password. And it secures every access point. From web applications to workstations and VPN, manage every access point in your business. And the best part, IT professionals will love this, you can deploy it instantly. LastPass Identity offers over 1,200 pre-integrated SSO, single sign-on, applications to get users up and running quickly. Granular control without the hassle. You can leverage 100 plus policies to manage users of the app, individual, group, or organizational level to customize access and authentication requirements. And LastPass goes above and beyond to ensure security for all of its users. Your data is encrypted and decrypted at the device level. Your master password and the keys used to encrypt and decrypt data are never sent to LastPass's servers and are never accessible by LastPass. Everything is on device level and it is protected. As the gold standard, they engage trusted world-class third-party security firms to conduct routine audits and testing of their service and infrastructure. We use LastPass here at TWiT. I've been a LastPass user since Jason turned me onto it years ago, and I can't live without it. It is one of the best applications to keep track of all my secure passwords and so much information within the application. I know it's safe in there. No one's getting in without my thumbprint, without all the various different ways to do authentication, and all my data, my really, really sensitive data is protected thanks to LastPass. So increased security doesn't have to be complex. LastPass makes identity and access management simple for IT to manage and easy for employees to use. Start your journey today by visiting lastpass.com/twit to find out how they can help you. That's lastpass.com/twit. And thanks, LastPass, for keeping us protected. Yay, LastPass. Truly, truly, I love that. I love it. I've been using it for years. It's awesome. All right. Well, that's going to wrap things up for hardware. And so we're going to skip apps this week, and we're going to go right into the app arena.
So many enter, but only one lives. Android Arena.
All right. It was an exciting week last week in the arena. We had 4 entrants. I was back. And Ant, you brought it with Visor, and sure enough, that was the winner. Visor got 37% of the vote with 41 votes. I did come in second place with Almighty Volume Keys with 24 votes. Power Shade, though. That was a very cool app. It was very good. Power Shade from Jason got 23 votes, and then coming in last was was Fiona, our guest, who brought Shazam into the arena with 21 votes. And so that gives us 10 weeks of results here in the arena. Ant, you are still in last place with 14 points, but that's okay. You're gaining every week. I'm in 2 in a row. Yeah, exactly. I'm still trying to recover from being out for a couple of weeks. So I've got 17 points in third place. Guests and Florence, who is out on maternity leave, are tied with 23 points, and Jason, with that third place placing in last week's arena, is sitting pretty in first place with 27 points. But he's not here this week, so he can't stay in first place. It's a good opportunity for the guests to clear the gap, or for me to get a little more, me or Ant to get a little more, gain a little bit more on it. So it's very exciting. I love the arena. All right. So that said, Ant, why don't you go first, and then we'll do Ben, and then I'll go since I beat you last week in the arena. So that's what we'll do there. So Ant, you're up first.
All right. Well, my app is IM. That's EYEEM. IM. And this app is a nice little photography service. Think about the likes of, say, Flickr or 500px. It's not just an app, it's also a website. And it allows you to go in and share your images with however many people you want all over the world. You can follow people and really just treat this as like another photography social network. In addition to allow you share your images and interact with other photographers, they also offer some challenges that you can enter to where you can take a shot of a particular subject matter based on whatever the challenge is requesting and submit your images. And if you win that challenge, you can either get money for your shot or you'll get they always have some type of varying prizes, whether it's a trip to somewhere or cash or another relationship that you can get with another company that will work with you and use your images in some of their projects. It's a lot of different little things in there. And what I like about it is you can also set it up to be like a stock image library for yourself. I've talked about selling stock images in the past, and that market is really, really saturated. So it's pretty tough to make some, serious money off of stock images. But if you want to just, put your images out there and make 50 cents here, $1 there, or whatever, just in your sleep, I suggest using something like IM. I use IM for some of my stock images. I don't make a lot of money there. Most of my cash flow will come from Adobe stock because Adobe stock has more eyeballs. A lot of people using that service. But IM does partner with Getty Images, and I've had 2 or 3 of my images get pushed over to Getty for them to use it in some project or what have you. Didn't make a lot of money off of it, but it was still pretty cool to see that Getty picked it up. The app is free. The service, I don't pay anything for the service, but it's a pretty nifty little app, and it's easy to get through from a UI standpoint, and it doesn't tie down your phone's resources as far as being a memory hog or anything like that. But that is IM.
Very cool. All right. So a lot of you photographers out there could take advantage of that, right?
Yeah, you can see right there on the screen, request your payout. That's 2 images. Heck, it's the same image that I sold to somebody as a stock image. And that's the thing. You just upload it and leave it, and if people want it, they'll buy it. I don't have to push it and promote it or anything, because people that are looking for stock images, they're looking at Adobe, they're looking at IM, they're looking at Shutterstock and things like that. So if you want to just stick them out there, just stick random shots out there. Like right there, you see a coffee theme for me because I was just hanging out with the coffee shop. So I took a bunch of coffee related stock images, and those will sell.
Cool. All right then. So IM, not Instant Messenger. Right. worth checking out for you photographers. All right. So Ben, why don't you tell us about InWare?
So InWare is kind of it's not a benchmarking app, but it's kind of an easy way to get all the information on your device in one place. It's really just a useful utility just to see everything about your device. You can see the Android versions, exactly how much RAM, storage, everything that you've got. And the times that it comes most useful for me is because I review a bunch of different chargers and stuff at times. I actually use it to see the charging status and exactly how fast a charger is for me. So it might also be handy for just finding out how quick your charger is, if it's actually working right with your device. And it also can track the health of your battery, which is nice. So it's just if you're really into your phone and you want to know everything you can know about it, it's very useful for that purpose. And it's actually developed by one of the guys who works with us at 9 to 5. So it's a little bit of a plug for him. But he's put a lot of work into it. He's constantly working on evolving it and making it better. And I think it's come out great, and I think it's a very useful tool that, it's not going to be something the average Android person will use, but I think a lot of the people who, they might listen to this show would be interested in giving it a shot.
Listen, as someone who's brought apps like this to the arena before in the past, they love those apps that give you information about your phone. Like we talked earlier about the benchmarkers. I know a lot of our listeners are benchmarkers.
Clearly.
All right, cool. Well, InWear, check it out in the Google Play store. It's worth checking out. I'm definitely going to do it. I love getting all that information about my phone. And I think my app is another one. I mean, I will say, I think it's one that our listeners will enjoy as well. It is called FilterBox. And it's so the full name is FilterBox Notification Timeline Manager, which really undersells the app, if you ask me. This is power tool for your notifications. What it does is it not only keeps the history of all your notifications. So, for example, quite often I will get a news update and I'll be in a meeting or something and I'll look at it. I'm like, oh, I want to read that later. And I'll accidentally swipe left or right and then it's gone. Right. And I go back in Google News. Things are updating so fast I can't find it. With FilterBox, I can go open up the app and go to a timeline-like, Twitter-like view there in the second. There you go, in the second screen on the Google Play Store, as Victor is showing. Thank you. You see a timeline of all of your notifications from most recent to oldest, and you see what app gave the notification and what that notification was, and you can tap into it to get that information. So that's great. So it keeps a track of all your notifications. Then furthermore, you can apply filters and you can take control of those notifications, because if there are apps that you don't want to see or you want to see differently, you can customize those. You can do those filters. But then additionally, and Victor, if you move over, I think two screens, you can see analytics based on your notifications. How many notifications you got in a day? Which apps are giving you the most notifications? How many times your filters applied to them? So really powerful, and the analytics give you a couple of cool different ways to sort it. You can sort it by notification count or filtered count or by app name, and you can see a bar graph, or in the next screen you can see the little circle graph. So really gives you information about your notifications. And then furthermore, just in the settings, if you skip over two more there, Victor, of course they've got a dark theme, which is nice. But they also have the auto time dark theme, which is great, which will have it go dark at the appropriate time. You can customize the look of it. You can keep track of how long to keep the history for, whether you want to keep it for 30 days or just a day or whatever. You can also protect all this information with your fingerprint or face scanner. So it's got really great tools there. And of course, you can exclude apps and exclude filters from rules with your filters. Really, again, give your notifications a shot in the arm, kind of like notifications on steroids with this app. This is really, really cool. And the great thing is that there's a lot of information in here. This is becoming the hub of your kind of information center for your phone. They do note it in the App Store at the bottom of the description. They will not send any of the notification details to the network, and it's basically using App Center's bug analysis, and that can be disabled in settings. So all this information is protected. So FilterBox Notification Timeline Manager. It's free in the Google Play Store. Check it out. Definitely worth looking into. At minimum. For getting back those missed notifications. That's a big thing for me. So there it is.
That's fantastic. I just downloaded that. That just got a win for me, because it can open those notifications correctly.
Right, which is key.
Like if you get a bunch of Twitter notifications, it can actually open the right spot in the app. That's awesome. Pretty
powerful. So really, those are 3 great apps from all 3 of us. Good job, gentlemen. You can go to twit.to/AAApoll464. That's twit.to/AAApoll464. Vote for your favorite app, and it's my favorite time of the night when we see what Victor's going to vote for. Victor is a power user. He makes these choices, and it's really live or die by what the audience follows Victor. And he's going to FilterBox. Oh, thank you, Victor. I appreciate it. So cool.
I don't know you anymore.
All right. Well, great show, Ben. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for helping us talk about all this great stuff. Why don't you take a second, tell folks where they can find you? Anything else you'd like to plug? We'd love to hear what you're working on.
So I'm on Twitter at NexusBen, and I'm on 9to5 Google all day. So you can go there to catch my work. I guess really the only thing I have to plug is I'm working on S20 Ultra stuff right now, so I'll have that out probably this week. LG V60 is coming up soon, so just lots of that, and we're constantly digging in. Android 11 developer previews are coming, and all the new phones, and just everything that's coming up. You can go check it out over there. Between just me, Abner, Kyle, Damien, all of us. So definitely go. If you haven't checked out 9to5 Google, it's worth a read.
Yeah, absolutely. It's in my blog roll. So I'm always reading it.
We appreciate it.
Cool. Well, Ant, it's so much fun having you on the show now, man. It's really great having you. Where can people find you online?
Heck, you can just find me right here on TWiT TV. That's twit.tv/hop for hands-on photography. That's my show here on the network. I do it every Thursday, and I just love sitting down and going through the images and showing different tips and tricks to help make people better photographers, as well as doing some critiques and edits of listeners and viewer photos that are submitted to us. So yeah, check me out here on the network. That's twit.tv/hop, or just follow me on Instagram, ant_Pruitt.
Very good photographer if you follow him on Instagram. So it's worth the follow, everyone. Worth the follow. So Victor, thank you for coming in and being the lone man in the studio and making this whole thing work.
Well, I'm not totally alone. There's Jeff's around here somewhere helping out. So
all right. Well, thank you to Jeff, and I will. I guess we'll forgive Burke for not coming in. Whatever. I expected Burke to at least be in the chat room, but apparently he's treating this like a vacation, isn't he?
Yeah.
Cool.
Don't worry. I gave him flack for it yesterday. So
yeah. So all right. Well, Victor, we thank you as always. You are the best. You are a trooper. And of course, you can follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at RonXO. Today's March 17th, and I found a Christmas tree on the streets of New York City. I posted on Instagram. So there it is. Coronavirus be damned. Wow. So yeah, so follow me on Instagram for Christmas trees. And you can check out Scorbit.io. We are it's a fun little startup that I'm working on that is connecting pinball machines to the internet. We are gearing up to do some cool stuff. We are also affected by coronavirus, unfortunately. So we are working with it. And again, as I always say, hardware is hard, but I look forward to it. I'm gonna have much more to talk about in the upcoming weeks. So stay tuned to that. But you can follow along there at Scorbit. So cool. Well, that's going to wrap it up for this week. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. We hope we provided a good distraction to you in these troubled times, and we can just revel in the fun world of Android. Appreciate everybody tuning in, subscribing, downloading, streaming, whatever you do. You guys are the best. We're here for you, the community. I think Jason's back next week. Maybe, maybe not. I hope so. Jason's the best. In these times of difficult, kind of the world, I always find Jason's a calming voice. So it'll be nice to have him back. But yeah, so that's it for this week. All About Android comes out every Tuesday evening. You can subscribe at twit.tv/AAA. You can give us a call. We haven't gotten many voicemails, but please, tell us what you think. Give us a call, 347-SHOW-AAA. Works with any telephone, any mobile phone. Just call 347-SHOW-AAA. And you can email us at aaa@twit.tv. And of course, we're all tuning into social media, so make sure you're following TWiT on your favorite social media network. I follow them on Instagram, and they are a fun follow. So follow twit.tv on Instagram. Always a good time there. And we will see you next time on All About Android. Stay safe.